All right, what day is it, Mike? Woot woot, hump day, woot woot. I love my hump day, man, because that means after today, it's over the hill. There's just two more. Today's editorial is a video. I don't really have a story for you to read, but I do have a video for you to watch in the description box below. It's James Freeman on YouTube. I'm not good at mirroring videos. I'm not good at like showing video clips. And I tried that. And it always comes out like a podcast, a black screen, but you can hear, and you guys want to see this. Trust me, you want to go watch this. So I'm going to give you a little backstory. I didn't think to upload or put a link to the original where they were at, but I'll give you a backstory. You can watch, if you go to Johnny 50 or James Freeman, you might see their live stream. I was watching Johnny 50's live stream, and they were over at City Hall in Washington City, Utah. Washington City, Utah. So Johnny 50 and James Freeman were up there. They were documenting and doing an audit in the City Hall there. I will just tell you that I looked it up, and Utah is an open carry state. Utah, you are allowed to carry a firearm if it's I think they said 2 steps away or 2 something away from firing. So like you can have a gun with the magazine in as long as there's nothing in the chamber and it's unsafe. So you can carry your firearm. It is an open carry state. You can have a gun on you. But they didn't have a gun. Now that's important later on. But they didn't have a gun. So they're in City Hall. They just had camera equipment. James Freeman, if you go watch Johnny 50's live stream video, if it's still up, James Freeman's walking around looking like the Predator with his camera up here. He did. He literally looked like the Predator. I was like, this guy, I was waiting for him to go. Or how does that go? I was waiting for James Freeman to do that. So, it was a great Predator, was it? Anyway, guys, it's early, man. I got to do something to wake up. So, moving on, they're in the City Hall. They call the police. This guy shows up with gloves, and they go, we have cameras, and we're just documenting. All of a sudden, the whole force shows up. I mean, literally, I think the whole Washington City PD force showed up for that day, that shift. The whole shift shows up. They're all like, you got to get out of here. They start pushing James. They rip his cables off him. And just push him out of the City Hall. They're going off on these guys. There's one little bald guy that I want you, if you go watch that live stream, to take notice of. He's the same cop in the video link below. So I watched that live stream. I was like, wow, they just got punked. They just got moved out of City Hall and moved off to the sidewalk. They got punked. Wow. Okay, that's fine. They didn't get arrested, and that's what's important. So later, I'm watching Johnny 50's got another live stream, and I'm like, oh, well, all right, Johnny's live streaming again. And he's talking about James Freeman. And I'm like, what? Did Freeman get arrested? So I go to James Freeman's channel, videos, and there at Walmart, there's a traffic stop. James Freeman's by himself now at this point. He walks up to video the traffic stop or see what the cop's doing, and he goes, oh, the cop's probably just helping her, it looks like. The cop walks over. Now, here's where I wanted to bring all of you to right here. If you cop watch, this is the danger you face. We put our lives out on the line every day. I mean, I've got a cop here that's telling people a bunch of bullshit like he harasses cops and doesn't like cops. Yeah, he does. That guy that's filming you, he harasses cops and yada, yada. I mean, he's stirring the pot. He's trying to start stuff. He follows me around when I record. I record the police. When they leave, I leave. But this guy follows me. He looks for my vehicle. He starts looking for me. And my point is, when we're out there cop watching, things could happen to us. We could end up, and they can lie. It's okay if they lie because they just put it in their police report, and well, that must be the truth because the cop wrote it down. So we're putting our lives on the line when we're out there, guys. We're putting ourselves in harm's way to be injured or even worse. I just wanted you guys to know that if you're cop watching, particularly if you're cop watching, you have to have eyes in the back of your head, but you also have to be very smart about how you carry yourself and how you record on that camera. You will see that in the video link below. I'm going to tell you about it real quickly here. I'm going to give you kind of a short version. So the cop walks over to tell James Freeman, you got to stop recording. You got to stop. You got to stop doing that. James is like, what are you talking about? I'm recording the traffic stop. He goes, and it looks like the cop, or sounded like the cop was saying, she doesn't want you to record. James is like, I'm a journalist. This is what I do. The cop says, is that a gun? Do you have a gun right there? Are you carrying a gun? And James Freeman backs up and says, what are you talking? Whoa, I don't have a gun. Now remember, Utah is an open carry state. Even if he had a gun, he's just standing there with a camera, he's allowed to open carry. But he says, whoa, no, it's not a gun. And when James Freeman puts his camera down to where the cop was pointing, it's a radio. It's a radio clipped to his cargo pocket of his shorts. So the cop apparently puts out a call, man with a gun in the Walmart parking lot. Bunch of other cops show up. One of the cops steps up. He has a gun on his hip. Of course he does, as a cop. So now James Freeman has two guys with guns facing him, and the other cop that walks up justifies the behavior of the first cop. So instead of saying to the one cop, well, it is an open carry state, what was he doing with the gun? Or instead of talking to that cop, he goes to James Freeman and goes, well, you shouldn't approach him. You shouldn't be approaching him. You could scare him and get, So basically, and James wasn't close to the guy. James Freeman was far away. I would say, looking through his camera, and sometimes the camera lies on distance, but it appeared to be 50, 60 feet away, and I'm being conservative. It looked like James was probably a good 60 feet or so away. He's not interfering, obstructing, nor delaying. He's just standing there with a camera. But these cops, and the cop says too, he's talking to the second cop that arrives. He goes, I was a reasonable distance. He goes, well, a reasonable distance for you might not be a reasonable distance for us. Let me tell you something, you law enforcement officers that watch my video. That bullshit with a reasonable distance for you, it isn't always a reasonable distance for us. A reasonable distance for you cops is us being across the street at the next fucking intersection so we can't record you. That's a reasonable distance for you. Stop using that reasonable distance bullshit, because all that means is we don't want you recording us. We don't want you watching what we do, because we break the law, we violate people's rights, and we lie on reports. And your cameras are fucking it up, because all of a sudden now I can't lie on my report because your video is out there. That's what reasonable distance for you means. When we're standing 50 feet away, that's a reasonable goddamn distance. So stop telling us, well, that's a reasonable distance for us is different. Yeah, a reasonable distance for you is no transparency, no accountability. That's a reasonable distance for cops. So stop using that. You go by the law. The law is what you apply. And if we're not interfering, obstructing, nor delaying, then shut the fuck up and do your job and quit saying reasonable distance. I'm tired of hearing that from cops, because all it is we don't want to be recorded. We have to lie on our report, and we can't do that with your cameras behind us. That's what that means. So the cop tells him that. The cop starts justifying the other cop saying he has a gun. Now, James Freeman, he was standing there with his hands in the air. As you saw that, he was like, oh, Mom, I'm not doing nothing. My hands are raised. That was probably the smartest thing that could have happened, because them cops could have shot him. They could have said he's got a gun. If he would have reached, man with a gun, bang. Oh, man, I thought he was reaching. We're putting our lives on the line when we're out there. And I want to say a couple of things in closing here. Guys, always think when you're out there. Try to think, and I'm learning this too. Always have eyes in the back of your head, but always concentrate on what the cop is doing so that you don't end up getting shot or tased by this guy because he's some kind of pussy that, oh my God, he scared me. He wasn't a reasonable distance. And that's the other thing I want to say. Stop using reasonable distance, cops, because we're not going away. We're going to record you. We're out there watching you. As long as your buddies, and this is for the cops that are trying to do good, as long as your buddies are lying on reports, violating people's rights, and breaking the law and violating policy, we're going to record you. We're not going away. We're staying. We're here to stay. You can bring it on if you want and try to move the cameras across the street and try to move us away and try to accuse us of having guns when we have cameras and radio equipment. You guys can try everything you want, everything in the book. Take us to court, arrest us, violate our rights. We're not going away. You might discomfort us. You might put us in a little bit of discomfort or uncomfortable, or, have us do this or have us take the ride. There's always going to be tomorrow. There's always going to be next week. And we're going to be here with our cameras running. Remember that. Community Leo Watch. I'm watching Leos in communities around here. I'm watching Leos nationwide. I'm letting you guys know what's going on with Leos across your nation. Go watch that video with James Freeman. That really pissed me off because those two cops violated every right they could of a journalist. The one cop is just an idiot. Oh, is that a gun? You know why he said that? Because the camera was running. He was trying to give an excuse in case he could shoot him. He could plant a gun and say, see, he had a gun, man. He was videotaping me while he had a gun. That's why he said it, because the camera was running. And he wanted it recorded that, oh, you have a gun? He wanted that recorded. So when he called his buddies in to shoot this guy, it was recorded. Am I being extreme? Let me know in the comment section below, guys. I want to hear from you guys on this one in the comment section below. Video link to James Freeman's video is in the description box. Thank you. Happy Hump Day. And I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.